Jack Miller sat in the cockpit of his old ship. The ship was called the Iron Mule. It was not a fast ship. It was not a pretty ship. It was a salvage freighter. Jack made his living by finding lost things in space. He was alone out here. The edge of known space was very quiet. There were no trade routes. There were no patrol ships. It was just dark stars and cold dust. Jack liked it this way. He liked the silence. It helped him think. He had been flying for 3 weeks without seeing another soul. He was ready to go home. Today was like any other day. Jack drank his cold coffee. He watched the sensors. The screen was green. It showed nothing for many hours. Then a light blinked on the dashboard. It was a red light. Jack put down his cup. He leaned forward. Computer made a beeping sound. It was a distress signal. The signal was strong. It was coming from a moon nearby. The moon was called X-94 by the maps. It did not have a real name. It was a rocky place with thick storms. Most pilots would fly away. They would say it was too dangerous. Jack thought about the reward if a rich ship crashed. The salvage rights were worth a fortune. He made his decision. He pulled the control stick. The Iron Mule turned toward the moon. The engines hummed. The ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. The view outside the window was dark, purple. Clouds swirled around the ship. Lightning flashed close to the hull. Jack held the controls tight. He needed to find a flat spot to land. The ground below was full of sharp rocks. He saw a large crater. It looked safe enough. He brought the ship down slowly. Landing gear hit the ground with a heavy thud. Dust flew everywhere. Jack turned off the engines. The silence came back. He checked his weapons. He took a heavy laser rifle. He put on his spacesuit. He checked the air seals. He opened the airlock. The air outside was thin. He could breathe it, but it was not smart to try. He stepped onto the surface. Ground was gray and hard. The wind blew hard against his suit. He followed the signal. It led him to a large piece of wreckage. The ship was not human. It was smooth and silver. It looked like a tear drop. It was broken in half. Smoke came from the cracks. Jack walked closer. He saw a door that was half open. He shined his light inside. The inside was fancy. The walls were white and gold. There were bodies of alien guards. They looked like tall humans with blue skin. They were not moving. Jack moved deeper into the ship. He heard a sound. It was a soft cry. He found her in a small room. She was wearing a white dress. She had silver hair. She was hurt. Her leg was bleeding. She looked at Jack with wide eyes. She was scared. Jack spoke to her. He said, "It is okay. I am here to help." She did not understand his words. She just nodded. Jack lifted her up. She was light. He carried her out of the ship. The wind got stronger. The storms were getting worse. Jack started to walk back to his ship. Then he heard a growl. It came from the dark. Jack stopped. He put the princess down behind a rock. He raised his rifle. 3 creatures came out of the shadows. They looked like wolves, but they were big. They were the size of bears. They had black fur and yellow eyes. They wanted to eat. Jack did not wait. He fired his gun. A blue beam hit the first beast. It fell down. The other 2 jumped. Jack rolled on the ground. He fired again. The second beast screamed. It ran away. The last one was close. It opened its mouth. Jack shot it in the chest. It fell dead. Jack breathed hard. His heart beat fast. He checked the princess. She was safe. She was looking at him with wonder. Humans were known for being tough, she saw it. Now Jack carried her to the Iron Mule. He put her in the medical bay. He set the ship to autopilot. He wanted to leave this moon fast. He flew up into space. He set a course for the nearest station. He thought about the reward. He thought about the money. He was tired. He sat in the pilot chair and closed his eyes. He slept for a few hours. When Jack woke up, things were different. He was not in his ship. He was in a soft bed. The room was large. The walls were made of white stone. There were windows that looked out at a city. The buildings were tall and shiny. Jack sat up. He felt fine. His clothes were changed. He was wearing soft silk robes. He stood up and walked to the door. He tried to open it. It was locked. He knocked on the door. Hello, is anyone there? He asked. The door slid open. 2 guards stood there. They were tall. They wore blue armor. They held long spears. They did not smile. They said, "Come with us." Jack asked, "Where is my ship? Where is the girl?" The guards did not answer. They just pointed down the hall. Jack walked with them. He felt worried. He saved a life. He expected thanks. He did not expect prison. They walked through long halls. There were many people. They all looked at him. Some whispered. They looked at him like he was a strange animal. They arrived at a large double door. The guards pushed the doors open. Inside was a throne room. Woman sat on a high chair. She wore a crown. She looked powerful. This was the queen. Jack stopped. He looked at her. He waited for her to speak. He did not know that his life had just changed forever. He thought he was a hero. He did not know he was now a prisoner. The floor was smooth and cold under his bare feet. The lights above were soft and blue. They did not flicker like human lights. Jack saw paintings on the walls. They showed battles and kings. He felt small here. This was not a place for a salvage man. The guards stopped in front of the throne. They bowed low. Jack did not bow. He stood straight. He was a human. He did not bow to kings. Queen looked down at him. Her eyes were sharp. She did not look grateful. She looked like she owned something. Jack felt a chill. He realized the rescue was only the beginning. The real trouble was just starting. The large room was very quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the lights above. Jack Miller stood on the smooth floor. He looked up at the woman on the throne. She was Queen Vesa. She wore a long dress made of dark blue fabric. It sparkled like the night sky. On her head was a crown made of silver metal. It looked heavy. Her face was serious. She did not smile. Her eyes were cold and sharp. She looked at Jack like he was a piece of property. Jack felt angry. He had saved her daughter. He expected a handshake. He expected money. He did not expect to feel like a prisoner. Queen Vesa spoke first. Her voice was calm but loud. It echoed in the big room. She said, "You have done a great thing for us. You brought my daughter back." Jack nodded. He said, "Yes, she was hurt. I fixed her up. Now I want my ship back. I want to go home." The queen shook her head. Slowly she said, "No, you cannot go home." Jack stepped forward. The guards moved their spears. They blocked his path. Jack stopped. He said, "What do you mean?" "No, I'm a free man. I am human. I am not one of your people." The queen leaned forward in her chair. She said, "You are on my planet. You are in my city. Here, my law is the only law. There is an old rule in the Kaith Empire. It is called the life debt. If someone saves the blood of the royal Family, they owe a debt. The debt is life for life. You saved LRA, so now your life belongs to the crown. Jack could not believe his ears. He laughed. It was a short, dry laugh. He said, "That is crazy. I'm a citizen of the Earth Federation. Your laws do not apply to me. I helped because it was the right thing to do. I did not do it for slavery." Queen Vesa did not get angry. She stayed calm. She said, "It is not slavery. It is honor. You will live here. You will have food. You will have clothes. You will have safety. But you cannot leave." Jack shook his head. He said, "I have a ship. I have a job. I have a life out there. You cannot keep me here." The queen waved her hand. Man walked out from the side. He wore long robe. He looked like an advisor. He held a tablet. The advisor said, "Your ship, the Iron Mule, has been taken to the royal hangar. It is safe, but it is locked. You will not fly it again." Jack felt his hands turn into fists. He wanted to fight, but there were too many guards. They were tall and strong. Their armor looked hard. Jack knew he could not win a fight here. He took a deep breath. He tried to stay calm. He said, "Let me talk to LRA. Let me hear her say she wants this." The queen looked at the side door. It opened. Princess LRA walked in. She looked better. Her leg was healed. She wore a long white gown. She looked at Jack. Her eyes were sad. She said, "Jack, I am grateful. You saved me." Jack said, "Elra, tell her. Tell her I should go." LRA looked at her mother. She looked down at the floor. She said, "I cannot. The law is sacred. If I break it, the people will be angry. I am sorry." Jack felt a heavy weight in his chest. He felt betrayed. He thought they were friends, but here rules were more important than people. He looked back at the queen. He said, "So I am just a pet now. You keep me in a cage because of an old rule." The queen stood up. She walked down the steps. She stopped in front of Jack. She was tall. She looked down at him. She said, "You are not a pet. You are a resource. Humans are known for being strong. You survived the moon. You killed the beasts. My people need that strength. There are enemies out there. One day I will call on you. Until then you will stay here." Jack did not speak. He knew arguing was useless. The queen turned around. She walked back to her throne. She sat down. She said, "Take him to the east wing. Give him the best room. Make sure he is comfortable, but guard the door." The guard stepped forward. They grabbed Jack by the arms. They were not rough, but they were firm. Jack did not fight. He walked with them. They led him out of the throne room. They walked down long halls. The walls were decorated with gold pictures. Floor was made of polished stone. Jack saw other aliens walking around. They stopped to look at him. They whispered to each other. Jack looked straight ahead. He felt like everyone was staring at him. They arrived at a large door. It was made of wood and metal. A guard opened it. They pushed Jack inside. Room was huge. There was a big bed with soft pillows. There was a table with fresh fruit. There was a window that looked out at the city. The view was beautiful. Lights sparkled everywhere. But Jack knew it was a trap. The guard stood outside the door. He heard the lock click. It was a heavy sound. Jack was alone. He walked to the window. He put his hand on the glass. It was cold. He looked up at the sky. He wondered where his ship was. He wondered if anyone knew he was missing. He walked around the room. He touched the walls. They were smooth. He sat on the bed. It was very soft, but it did not feel like rest. It felt like a cage, Jack thought. About his options, he could try to escape, but where would he go? This was an alien planet. He did not know the language well. He did not know the streets. If he ran, they would catch him. He needed a plan. He needed to wait. He lay back on the bed. He looked at the ceiling. It was painted with stars. He closed his eyes. He thought about the Queen's words. She said she would call on him someday. She said they needed his strength. Jack smiled a little. Maybe she was right about humans being strong, but she was wrong about one thing. Humans did not like to be told what to do. Jack sat up again. He walked to the table. He ate an apple. It was sweet. He needed to keep his strength up. He walked to the door. He knocked on it. No one answered. He knocked again. A voice said, "What do you want?" Jack said, "I need paper and a pen." The voice was quiet. Then someone said, "Wait a few minutes." Later, a small slot in the door opened. A hand passed in some paper and a writing tool. Jack took them. He went back to the table. He started to write. He wrote down everything he saw. He wrote down the guard shifts. He wrote down the layout of the hall. He was not just a salvage man. He was a survivor. If the Queen wanted to keep him, she would learn that humans do not break easily. He would wait for his chance. He would not be a debt. He would be a partner, or he would find a way home. Jack put the pen down. He looked at the door. He was ready. The game had started. Days passed slowly for Jack Miller. He stayed in the big room. The guards brought him food 3 times a day. They did not talk much. Jack tried to ask them questions. They only shook their heads. He felt like a bird in a cage. The cage was beautiful, but it was still a cage. He walked around the room. Many times he looked out the window. The city below was bright, but soon the lights changed. The usual calm of the palace was gone. The guards outside his door walked faster. Their boots made loud noises on the stone floor. Jack could feel tension in the air. It was like the feeling before a storm point. One morning Jack heard a loud noise. It was like thunder, but there were no clouds. He ran to the window. He saw ships in the sky. They were firing lasers at each other. Bright green and red lines crossed the dark sky. Some ships fell down. They crashed into the distance. Smoke rose up in thick black columns. Jack knew this was war. He listened at the door. The guards outside were talking fast. They sounded scared. They said words like invasion and void hunters. Jack remembered the Queen saying there were enemies. Now they were here. The Caith people were strong, but they looked confused. Their ships flew in perfect lines. They moved together like a dance. The enemy ships moved fast. They hid in the shadows of the moons. They hit hard and ran away before the Caith could shoot back. Jack sat on his bed. He thought about what he saw. He knew about war. Humans had fought many wars. They learned to be tricky. The Caith fought with honor. They faced the enemy head-on. That was brave, but it was not smart. The void hunters did not care about honor. They wanted to win. Jack stood up. He needed to do something. He could not just watch. He went to the table. He took the paper and pen the guard had given him. Before he started to draw, he drew maps of the sky. He wrote down ideas. He wrote about ambushes. He wrote about hiding ships behind moons. He wrote about hitting the enemy when they slept. Humans were good at waiting. Humans were good at surprising people. He finished the note. He folded the paper. He walked to the door. He knocked hard. The guard opened the small slot. Jack said, take this to the Queen, it is important. The guard hesitated. Jack said, if you do not, your city will burn. The guard looked at the paper. He saw the drawings. He looked scared. He took the paper. The slot closed. Jack waited. He walked around the room again. His heart beat fast. Hours passed. The noise outside got louder. The floor shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Jack thought, maybe they would ignore him. Maybe they would let him die here. Then he heard footsteps, many footsteps. The door opened. It was not just a guard. It was Queen Vesa. She looked tired. Her crown was crooked. Her dress had dust on it. She walked into the room. She looked at Jack. She said, you sent this plan? Jack nodded. He said, yes, your ships are too predictable. You fight like soldiers. You need to fight like survivors. The Queen looked at the paper in her hand. She said, Commander K says it is dangerous. He says it is not honorable. Jack stepped closer. He said, honor does not stop lasers. Survival does. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to live? The Queen was quiet. She looked out the window. Another ship exploded in the distance. The light flashed on her face. She turned back to Jack. Her eyes were hard. She said, if this fails, you will be punished. If it works, we will talk about your debt. Jack said, that is fair. The Queen nodded to the guards. She said, bring him to the war room. Give him a uniform. Jack smiled. He was still a prisoner, but now he had a job. He walked out of the room. He was ready to show them how humans fight. The halls were busy. People ran with data pads. Soldiers checked their weapons. Jack followed the Queen. They walked into a large room filled with screens. Many aliens stood around a big table. They looked stressed. Commander Kale stood at the front. He was a tall alien with blue skin. He looked at Jack with anger. He said, why is he here? The Queen said, he has a plan. Kale said, he is a human. He knows nothing of our ways. Jack walked to the table. He pointed at the screen. He said, your ways are losing. Look at the pattern. The enemy knows where you will be. You need to change. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at the screen. Jack explained his idea. He wanted to send a small group of ships. They would not fight. They would hide. They would wait for the enemy flagship. Then they would strike together. It was risky. It was not the Kythe way, but the Queen looked at Kale. She said, do it. Kale frowned. He bowed his head. He said, as you command. Jack looked at the Queen. She looked at him. There was a new respect in her eyes. She did not see a debtor anymore. She saw a weapon. Jack knew this was dangerous. If the plan failed, he would be in trouble. But if it worked, he might get his freedom. He looked at the map. He pointed to a dark spot in space. He said, send them here. Wait for my signal. The battle was not over, but now humans were in the fight. Jack rolled up his sleeves. He was ready to work. Jack stood on the bridge of the Kythe warship. It was called the Silver Wing. The ship was sleek and fast. It was much better than his old salvage freighter, but the crew did not trust him. They were Kythe warriors. They believed in fighting face to face. They believed in honor. Jack was telling them to hide. He was telling them to be cowards in their eyes. But Jack knew better. He knew that winning was the only honor that mattered. The pilot sat in the front chair. His name was Torin. He looked at Jack with doubt. Torin said, are you sure about this? We are sitting in the dark. The enemy will pass us by. Jack shook his head. He said, they will not see us. Our engines are off. We are just another rock in the Field, Torrin frowned. He said this. Feels wrong. Jack put a hand on Torrin's shoulder. He said, trust me when I say. Fire you fire, not before. The space around them was filled with asteroids. Large rocks floated in the silence. The silver wing was hidden behind a big moon. It was cold on the bridge. Crew waited. Minutes turned into hours. Jack watched the sensors. He drank a cup of hot liquid the crew gave him. It tasted like spice and metal. He liked it. It kept him awake. He looked at the screens. Nothing yet. The crew was getting restless. They whispered to each other. They thought Jack did not know what he was doing. Jack ignored them. He focused on the map. He knew the void hunters would come this way. They wanted to attack the main power plant of the city. This was the only path. Jack had bet everything on this guess. If he was wrong, the city would fall. If he was right, they might win the war. Suddenly, a light blinked on the console. Torrin sat up straight. He said, contacts. 3 ships, no 5 ships. They are coming out of warp speed. Jack leaned over the screen. He saw the red dots. They were big dots. One was much larger than the others. That was the flagship. It was the command ship. Jack said, hold position, do not move. Torrin hands hovered over the controls. He wanted to fight. Jack said, wait, let them get closer. The enemy ships moved slowly. They were confident they did not scan the asteroid field. They thought the Kaith were too honorable to hide. They were wrong. The flagship moved past the moon. It was close. Jack could see the details on its hull. It was black and sharp. It looked like a knife. Jack watched the distance meter. 5,000 mi, 4,000, 3,000. The crew held their breath. Jack felt calm. This was the moment he lived for, the moment where everything depended on one choice. He said, no, target the engines. Ignore the shields. Hit the engines. Torrin did not hesitate. He slammed his hand on the fire button. The silver wing shook. Blue beams shot out from the hidden ship. They hit the enemy flagship in the back. The shields on the back were weak. The beams burned through the metal. Smoke poured out of the enemy ship. Lights flashed on its hull. It stopped moving. It drifted in space. The other enemy ships panicked. They turned around. They did not know where the attack came from. Jack said, move, change position, fire. Again, the silver wing flew out from behind the moon. It fired while moving. This was another thing the Kaith did not do. They usually stopped to shoot. Moving while shooting was hard, but Jack had taught them. The enemy ships tried to lock onto them, but the silver wing was too fast. It zigged and zagged. Jack gave orders calmly. He told each gunner where to aim. He told the engine room to push the power to the limit. The ship groaned, but it held together. Another enemy ship exploded. It broke into pieces. The remaining ships tried to run. Jack said, let them go. We need to save our ammo. Torrin looked at him. He said, we can destroy them all. Jack said, no, we need to live to fight another day. This is not a duel. This is a war. The silver wing turned away. It jumped back to the safe zone. When they arrived, the main fleet was waiting. Commander Kale was there. He stood on the bridge of the flagship. He looked at the screen. He saw the damage report. 2 enemy ships destroyed, 1 flagship disabled, no Kaith ships lost. Kale looked shocked. He had lost many ships. Fighting the old way, Jack had won this battle without losing a single friend. Kale walked over to Jack. He did not look angry anymore. He looked humble. He Said you fought like a ghost, we did. Not see you until it was too late, Jack. Smiled, he said, that was the point. Humans learn to hide, we learn to strike when you're not looking, Queen. Vesa arrived on the bridge, she had watched the battle from the palace, she walked up to Jack, the crew bowed to her. Jack stood straight, he did not bow, he was tired, his uniform was dirty. Queen Vesa looked at him, she saw the success in his eyes, she said, you saved the power plant, the city is safe for now. Jack said it was a team effort, Torin and the crew did the work. Vesa shook her head, she said, you gave the orders, you changed the way we fight. She paused, she looked at Commander Kale. Kale nodded. He agreed with her. Vesa turned back to Jack, she said, the Void Hunters will retreat. They are scared now, they do not know how to fight an enemy they cannot see. Jack felt a sense of pride. He was not just a prisoner anymore, he was a leader. But Jack knew the war was not over. The Void Hunters would come back. They would bring more ships, Jack said. They will learn, next time they will scan the asteroids. We need to be ready. We need to train more pilots. We need to teach them human tactics. Queen Vesa listened carefully, she said, you teach them, you will be the instructor. Jack thought about it. He wanted to go home, but if he left, the Kaith might lose, they might all die. He looked at Torin. The young pilot looked at Jack with respect. Jack realized he had a responsibility. He could not just walk away, not yet. He nodded to the Queen. He said, I will do it, but I have conditions. Vesa raised an eyebrow. She said, name them. Jack said, I want my ship back and I want to say in the defense plans. Vesa smiled. It was a small smile. She said, we will discuss this later. For now, rest. You have earned it. Jack walked to his quarters. He was exhausted. He lay down on the bed. He closed his eyes. He thought about Earth. He thought about his old life. It felt far away now. He had saved a princess. He had saved a city. Now he was saving an empire. He did not know if he would ever go home. But for the first time since he arrived, he felt like he belonged. The battle was won, but the real test was coming. He had to change a whole culture of warriors, and he had to do it before the enemy returned. Jack slept deeply. He dreamed of space and stars. He dreamed of freedom. When he woke up, he knew what he had to do. He would make the Kaith strong, and then he would make sure they let him go. Weeks passed since the battle. The Void Hunters did not come back. They were scared of the new tactics. The Kaith Empire was safe. Jack Miller spent his days teaching the pilots. He showed them how to hide. He showed them how to surprise the enemy. The young pilots liked him. They called him Commander Jack. He liked the sound of that. It was better than prisoner. But Jack did not forget his goal. He wanted to go home. He wanted to see Earth again. He wanted to fly his own ship. The Iron Mule was fixed and ready. In the hangar, it waited for him. One morning, Jack packed his bag. He did not have many things, just some clothes and the notes he wrote. He walked out of his room. The guards did not stop him. They saluted instead. This was new. Before, they watched him like a hawk. Now they respected him. Jack walked through the halls. He went to the throne room. The big doors opened. Queen Vesa sat on her throne. Princess Elare stood next to her. Commander Kale was there too. They were waiting for him. Jack stopped in the middle of the room. He took a deep breath. He said, I am ready to leave. My ship is fixed. I want to go home. Now the room was quiet. Queen Vesa looked at him. She did not look angry. She looked thoughtful. She stood up. She walked down the steps. She stopped in front of Jack. She said, "You have done much for us. You saved my daughter. You saved my city. You taught my warriors." Jack nodded. He said, "I did what I had to do. Now I want my freedom." The queen sighed. She said, "I was wrong. I treated you like a thing. I thought I could keep you, but you are not a thing. You are a person. You are a human." Jack was surprised. He did not expect her to say that. He said, "So I can go?" Queen nodded. She said, "Yes, you are free. The life debt is paid. You paid it with blood and strategy." She reached into her robe. She took out a small metal box. She opened it. Inside was a badge. It was made of gold. She said, "This is the seal of the Empire. It means you are a friend. You can come and go as you please. If you ever need help, show this. Any Kaith ship will help you." Jack took the box. He felt the metal. It was warm. He said, "Thank you, Princess." Lara stepped forward. She looked happy. She said, "I am glad you are free, but I hope you visit." Jack smiled at her. He said, "I will. You are a good friend." Lara, Commander Kale walked up. He put a hand on Jack's shoulder. He said, "You are a good teacher. My pilots are better. Now do not forget us." Jack said, "I will not." He turned to the queen. He said, "I have one more thing." The queen said, "What is it?" Jack said, "I know you are still worried. The Void Hunters might come back. You need someone who knows their ways." Queen Vesa looked at him. She said, "Yes, it is a worry." Jack looked at the floor. Then he looked up. He said, "I will not stay as a prisoner, but I will stay as an ally. I will help you build a better defense. Then I will leave when I am ready." Queen Vesa smiled. It was a real smile. This time she said, "That is acceptable. We will sign a treaty. Humans and Kaith will be partners." Jack nodded. He liked that. It was fair. He was not a slave. He was a partner. The queen clapped her hands. Servants brought in documents. Jack read them. They said he was free. They said humans were allies. He signed his name, Jack Miller. The ink dried. It was done. Jack walked out of the palace. The air was fresh. The sun was bright. He walked to the hangar. The iron mule sat there. It looked old but strong. Torin was waiting there. He was one of the pilots Jack trained. Torin said, "Are you leaving?" Jack said, "Not today. Maybe tomorrow." Torin smiled. He said, "Good. We need you for one more thing." Jack laughed. He said, "What is it?" Torin said, "Dinner. The queen wants to have a feast for you." Jack shook his head. He said, "Humans like simple food, but I will come." Jack climbed into his ship. He sat in the pilot's seat. It felt like home. He touched the controls. He thought about the future. He could fly away now. No one would stop him. But he looked at the palace. It was big and shining. He thought about Lara. He thought about the queen. They were not his enemies anymore. They were his friends. He thought about Earth. It was far away. There was no rush. Jack turned off the engines. He opened the hatch. He stepped out. He decided to stay for the feast. He decided to stay for a while longer. He walked back toward the city. He was not a prisoner. He was not a debtor. He was Jack Miller. He was a human, and humans were free, but sometimes freedom means choosing where you want to be. Jack looked up at the stars. They twinkled in the sky. He knew he would leave someday. He would see Earth again, but for now this place needed him, and he liked being needed. He walked through the gates. The guards He saluted back. He was ready. For the next chapter, the war was over. The peace was just starting, and Jack Miller would be there to see it. He walked into the light. The story of the human who saved the princess was now a legend, but Jack knew the truth. He did not save her for glory. He did it because it was right, and now he stayed. Because it was right, the queen refused to let him go as a prisoner, but she welcomed him as a friend. That was enough for Jack. That was enough for anyone. The end of the debt was the start of a friendship. Jack knew that. Humans were tough, but he also learned that aliens were not so different. They wanted safety. They wanted family. They wanted peace. Jack would help them get it. Then he would fly away, but not today. Today there was a feast. Today there was peace. Jack smiled. He walked faster. He was hungry, and for the first time in a long time he was happy. The stars waited. The ship waited, but Jack Miller was ready for something new. He was ready for peace.